Issei Sagawa, a name that is loathed. He only killed one person in his life, hardly qualifies as a serial killer, but that doesn't diminish his being a total freak. He lived in the same room with a corpse. Even in sleep, he wouldn't let go. And in deep affection, he even tore off a piece of flesh until days later when the corpse severely decayed. Reluctantly, he dismembered it and packed it into a suitcase. Unlike the usual freaks, Issei Sagawa was born into a very wealthy family. His father was a major Japanese businessman, president of Tsunade Industrial Corporation. Simply put, he wouldn't have to worry even if he broke his leg, but due to an accident with his mother, led to Issei Sagawa being born prematurely. He was sickly from a young age and grew up to be only 151 centimeters tall, weighing only 30 kilos, and walked with a limp. This led Issei Sagawa to develop a severe inferiority complex, and being from a rich family, his worldview also became distorted, both inferior and arrogant. Because of his small stature and ugly appearance, he always had a fixation on tall, graceful things. In elementary school, Issei Sagawa once accidentally saw a classmate's thigh. At that moment in Sagawa Hospital, only one thought crossed his mind. It looks so tasty. At that time, he didn't think of killing, just wanted to bite them hard. And this thought grew stronger over the days as he grew older. Issei Sagawa also confessed his feelings to several tall women, but was rejected due to his height and looks. Through continuous tragedies, his mind became more twisted. During college, he became obsessed with a German woman who was a university lecturer, tall and voluptuous. After being rejected multiple times, during college, he fell madly in love with a German woman who was a university lecturer, tall and voluptuous. After multiple rejections, Issei Sagawa came up with an idea. I will kill her and then eat her, that way she can never reject me. So that night, Issei Sagawa took a knife, climbed up to the lecturer's balcony using the water pipe, but the lecturer was alert, heard the noise and came to check. This prevented him from succeeding. In the end, Issei Sagawa's father paid 15 million yen in compensation to prevent the situation from escalating. However, after this incident, Issei Sagawa not only didn't restrain himself, but discovered the benefits of money, becoming more and more unrestrained. After graduation, Issei Sagawa went to study in France. There, he was almost in heaven. The streets were filled with tall women, too appetizing for him. And though money wasn't everything here, it certainly satisfied his various demands. As they say, a widow's door brings many troubles, a pervert's mind brings many more. Issei Sagawa was calm, gradually no longer satisfied with just spending money for fun, because he felt it lacked excitement, and he was increasingly unable to suppress his desire to eat people. Coincidentally at that time, Issei Sagawa met a kind and beautiful Blanche girl, Heartwilt. She was almost the only one who did not discriminate against Issei Sagawa. After a few months of acquaintance, the two became friends. Issei Sagawa felt the timing was right, so he invited Wilt to his home to translate a book of German poetry, and while she turned her back to him, Issei Sagawa took out a cobalt gun he had bought from the black market from under the bed, aimed at Wilt's nape. He aimed lower because Wilt was 175 centimeters tall. His own height wasn't enough. He had to settle for aiming at the back of the neck. With the sound of the gun, Wilt's head nearly flew off. The huge recoil also knocked Issei Sagawa to the ground. He passed out. When he woke up, seeing the mess around him, he felt no fear. Instead, there was a strange desire. He took Wilt to the bathroom and tried to bite a piece of meat off his thigh with his teeth, but his teeth weren't strong enough. So Issei Sagawa straightened his clothes, ran to the store downstairs and bought a steak knife. Later in his memoirs he wrote, "The fat oozing from the wound, its consistency and appearance was like yellow corn. I cut off a large piece and put it in my mouth. The meat melted in my mouth, like eating sushi, just like the tuna sashimi at the restaurant." He lingered with the body for a long time until he realized the smell would give him away. So he found a large box to dispose of the body. But while in the park, Issei Sagawa was discovered by an elderly couple walking. The elderly couldn't sleep and came out for a walk, coincidentally bumping into him. No need to search, because his home was covered in. Although France has no death penalty, but for what Issei Sagawa did, locking him up for life was still feasible. However, at that time, Issei Sagawa's father taught everyone a harsh lesson, showing how capital can manipulate the law at will. He hired the best lawyers in Japan to go to Paris to save his son. In court, Issei Sagawa followed the lawyer's advice, behaving very strangely, and always answered off-topic. The lawyer argued insanity for Issei Sagawa. Several psychiatrists in Paris also judged that his mental state was indeed compromised. Thus, Issei Sagawa was spared from prison and was sent to a psychiatric hospital in Paris. The maneuvering was far from over. In 1984, Issei Sagawa's father used his connections to transfer his son back from France to the Tokyo Metropolitan Matsuzawa Hospital. Then he requested a re-evaluation of his son's mental state. Several Japanese experts believe this was not a case of mental illness. Issei Sagawa merely had severe psychological issues, but during his time in the psychiatric hospital, he had supposedly reformed. Thus, Issei Sagawa was released. Japanese police had considered prosecuting Issei Sagawa for murder, but all the evidence was in France, and they refused to provide it. So Issei Sagawa got away scot-free. However, that lawyer was quite brilliant. He quickly spotted a loophole, guessing that the French side would definitely not provide the evidence, because by doing so, it would indirectly prove that their judgment was flawed. A murderer had escaped their legal sanctions. This was a result the French side was absolutely unwilling to accept, so they preferred letting the murderer roam free. After all, he was a Japanese. If he was going to harm anyone, it would be Japanese people, not their problem. This quickly led to severe public outrage. Issei Sagawa's father was attacked by the major media, thinking they are above everyone just because they have money. The family business reputation was in shambles, and they were ostracized by society. They soon went bankrupt. Issei Sagawa's parents lived on a pension, and Issei Sagawa himself never found a stable job for the rest of his life. No one dared to hire him. His life was quite miserable. Just as the Japanese public cried that justice is always late but never absent, Issei Sagawa received fan mail. Yes, his heinous acts when made public attracted many followers. They saw Issei Sagawa as an idol, even willing to spend a lot of money just for Issei Sagawa to write about his cannibalistic experiences in a book. So under these bizarre circumstances, Issei Sagawa wrote a total of 18 books, from case studies to novels. His influence further expanded. Many TV shows invited him on. Most absurdly, even cooking shows invited him to make videos. He even filmed his entire criminal process as a documentary. A criminal not only escaped punishment, but also made a fortune from it. He himself was very proud of this, even publicly stating he had no regrets about his past actions, and if he committed the crimes now, he definitely wouldn't get caught. The only good news is he suffered a stroke 13 years ago. His body was completely immobile. After lying in bed enduring 8 years of illness, he died of pneumonia at the age of 73.